Where we need to be. That's right. That's right. Sure. They're not that like.
Whoever Marie is.
Right, the meeting's.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Well. We're expecting that.
She told me. Last night.
Excuse me, while are we waiting for Philip? No. I have not heard. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Park Commissioners to order. It's our regular September meeting. And as usual, it's a beautiful day in Cincinnati parks, more specifically in beautiful Eden Park. We have quite a few, for those of you on video today, we have quite a few people here in public joining us for the meeting, and we want to welcome all of you. Want to welcome all of you that are watching online as well. We will start as usual with some public comments, and we do have quite a few today, and we do have a long agenda. So unfortunately, we keep you to 2 minutes. And Kelly, are you our timekeeper today?
Yes.
Our timekeeper extraordinaire. Do not hold it personally against Kelly or any of us up here, but we're going to try and keep you to 2 minutes. So we're first going to have Dennis Spiegel come before us and talk about roads. Come on up.
Hello and good morning.
Good morning.
Dennis Spiegel, and I'm owner and founder of a company called International Theme Park Services. And we work on over 550 projects in 55 countries. Built a couple of local projects, the aquarium, Kings Island, and used to run those. And I wanted to be here today to speak about skating and what you're talking about and going to be looking at, because I wanted to give you a business perspective and an international and domestic perspective of what's really happening. We work, as I say, all over the world, from Saudi Arabia to the East Coast, West Coast. And every project that we're seeing today is including roller skating or talking about it. It's happening all over the world. So you have from Disney to Saudi Arabia, a 300 square mile project that is including roller skating in this project. And the reason is it's one of those entertainment aspects that crosses the demographic spectrum. From young to old, people skate. And it's been around for, as we know, I mean, I'm 32. And I've been skating about 70 years. And still every once in a while I get out on the skate. We have some great opportunities here in Cincinnati, and we have some great venues to capitalize on. And I really think this would be an amazing program to expand and bring back to Cincinnati with this reemergence. And it's happening not only internationally and coast to coast, but it's happening in Indianapolis and Louisville and Columbus and Dayton. All the cities are looking at this. So this is what I do. We go out and study projects of this nature, and I wanted to share that with you today. I think it's a great project. I think Morgan has done an amazing job in resurrecting this here in Cincinnati. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. These are in no specific order, but I'm trying to keep all of the roller topics together. So we're next going to have Will Osborne.
Morning.
Good morning, Will.
Hi. I'm just gonna feed off him real quick. Actually, they just recently had a skate festival in Barcelona. Well over 3,000 skaters attended from all across the world. National, international, it was global. It was a massive party. I'm sitting here I'm watching videos down my feed constantly of this event that just happened. So skating is expanding and rapidly. And I've been blessed to be part of it for the past 30 plus years as a skater, growing up in the rink, projecting it out into the community. But I'm here to support moving forward with the designs and exploring the facility improvements at the skating rink at Sawyer Point. I teach and mentor down at the rink all the time. And I witnessed the potential of a large scale of national skating events and lessons at this. I hope that we approve the use of the funds raised to further explore all the possibilities into this space. I do want to thank you guys for your time and support of this project. It's amazing, and I'm very grateful to be a part of it. So
Thank you, Will. Valerie Kramer.
Didn't think I'd get up here this early.
Ah,
Thanks so much for having us. I am actually, along with my husband, a resident of Macon, Ohio. And I wanted to impart on you kind of the reason why we're so excited and so thrilled that this project is trying to get off the ground, because we don't have much of a skating opportunity up where we are in Mason. And we come down to skate with a community of skaters downtown at the skating rink outdoors, because what we typically do is we skate by ourselves outside on trails, and it's just the two of us, my husband and I. But we come down to be a part of a community and to skate with others who have like-minded interests, which is the interest of skating. And we mentor each other, young mentors to old mentors to young. It's the great equalizer, and we're all because of our love of skating. My husband and I lost my daughter in 2021. She was 19. She passed away of heart failure. It was sudden, it was unexpected. And skating for me and for my husband and I has been a source of healing. And it's healing because we get a chance to be outdoors in nature. And it's even better to be downtown at the Sawyer Point skating rink because we're with young people, and it actually feeds our sense of our grief. You know, it helps us through the grief process when we can be around young people, because it reminds us so much of our daughter, and we can mentor those folks and have them mentor and help us through our grieving process. And we skated all across the country, and the body of water is so popular across the country, having other skating rinks near a body of water or a throughway where people can skate in a body of water. This is a huge asset that we have in Cincinnati, and it is very, very unique for a Midwest town. And to have something like this near a body of water, it will bring skaters from all over the country because it's such a beautiful venue, and we need to capitalize on that. So thank you so much for hearing us. And we are so excited to see this project move forward.
We have Bill Kramer. We must have come in together.
Thank you for your support, and also the Regos for all they do selflessly for the community, but so many other people done for the support for the rink. Like Valerie said, we have skated all across the country, from Miami, San Diego to Venice Beach, and it is a special venue. It's on the water. It's a blue chip. It's really a destination for people around the country, and will share international. And then we have Dylan Wharton, who is a Disney choreographer in town here for skating. So many resources that the energy is palpable at the rink. Everybody's in a good mood. There's kids skating. There's old farts like me skating, and it's people from all walks of life, people from suburb, people from the inner city. The energy is great. It's just a good, wholesome activity for the city, and it brings a lot of people together, diverse group of people together. And I would just ask for additional support and funding for the project. And thank you all for all the people here for their support of this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Edna, I'm going to probably pronounce your last name wrong. Edna Cohn?
Yeah, it's okay.
Welcome. Thank you. Keon.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm going to make this very, very short. We've been in this process for a while now, and everyone has made a great, great case, and I'm here for the skate park. And it's a beautiful space. It's already there, and all we want to do is enhance it and make Cincinnati continue to be one of the most livable cities. It's such a great asset right there next to the pickleball park. And I just hope that you guys will listen to us and, you know, support this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edna. Next up, somebody I've never met. No, Eddie. We go.
It's the last name.
Please introduce yourself first. Nobody knows.
There we go, and thank you so much for being here. You know, it's so touching. I was supposed to be speaking on economic development opportunities of this project, but you know, the family aspect of this is so important. A lot of these skaters, they come together and they raise each other in the ranks, and you can see how that's reached out through all these different communities who've come together in the parks, and it's become such a big family. I will speak to the economic development aspects of it because, you know, when we think about economic development, we think about two things. We think about people and we think about place. And bringing people together, making those connections, especially with the diversity of people that we have coming to this location from all over the city, all different socioeconomic groups, and those connections turn into relationships, and they turn into business opportunities, employment opportunities. So the meaningfulness of this project has been what's really driven us. You know, we just see how touching it is and how moving it is for folks. But then also the place is so important. You know, it's kind of a neglected spot right now, but it is a gorgeous piece of property. And what we can do with that, not just for the skating community, but for all of Cincinnati, for the parks, the type of events that we'll be able to have there when you know the event won't be canceled because of rain or weather, is dramatic. It makes such a big difference if we can revitalize the space and turn it into something that will be the crown of the parks. But you know, when the heart of it is the heart of it, it's the people. These folks have become family. It's so meaningful. I hope you see what's happening here and can help us grow it even further. Your support to date has been invaluable. So really, thank you very much. And we look forward to the next steps. So,
Perfect. Thank you, Ed.
Sean Bell. Morning. My name is Sean Bell Jr. and I'm a member of Reckless Skaters, and I also go by the name Gemini. And yeah, I'm here in support of the roller skating rink, and I'm here to see what improvements we can make going into the design phase. Here's what some improvements could be. It could be like a pavilion to protect from weather, like Eddie said. And then just the pavement. I've heard from many skaters that come from out of the country and out of the state, out of the city. And they tell me that the pavement is uneven and there's cracks in the floor that could ruin the wheels, and it could ruin like their skates, and it could possibly get some hurt. So we just need something as far as like the pavement, and then something to cover as far as weather, and we'll be just fine. Well, it's been a journey. I've only been skating for 3 years. I've been working with the Cincy Parks Board, and it's just been a really wild ride, and just a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears into this program. And yeah, just looking to see what improvements we can make and how we can move into the design phase.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I only have a first name, Marie, who wanted to speak about the Sawyer Point there.
Good morning, I'm Marie Gasbury. I'm a local homeschool mom that helped organize the homeschool skate at the OTR rink. I know that if we had some improvements at the Sawyer Point rink, that I could safely, confidently tell people to take their kids down there more often. I also just got back from Barcelona, Spain, for that big skate event. Can I just tell you, workshops that they had alone brought in $15,000 for that event in one weekend. Their surface was brought together in a weekend. It was a smooth pavement. And their rink was half the size of a Sawyer Point rink. What we could do with this space, and we're just talking about, that was just for the workshops, the vendors, that we could have, you know, all kinds of other things brought in to do. We've already had a skate festival last year, and we talked about doing that again. We really, to make it truly successful, it needs to be a safe space, and it needs to have a plan B for weather backup. We need to have something that can provide so that if we are hosting international worldwide events, bringing in income into the city, that we can actually guarantee that people paying for whatever they're paying, they're actually getting to use the space. So something that would, I guess my biggest ask is that we have the allowance to use the funding that we've already raised to get some plans going so that we can present, this is what we want this to look like, and move forward from there. So there's just so much we can do. I also teach yoga. I've gotten to teach yoga down there at the rink, and I can see the potential in fitness programming for the space. There's just so much potential for the space. Thank you so much for your support and hearing all of us today. And
Thank you. We're going to hear a lot more about the skate park in our actual program, but we have a couple other topics. So I want to welcome back Michael. And Michael wants to talk about art in the park.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
All right, so my name is Michael Kofach. I do support the skate park and pretty much any any kind of cultural kind of thing that improve our city. But I want to remind you about the plinth in the park. Inspired by the fourth plinth in London, which attracts 15 million people annually to London, just to this site. I just got back from Peru last week, visiting some historical sites, and I noticed that they have plinths in all of the historical sites as well, with a bunch of people around them. And I'm just here to see if there has been any conversation or consideration in building plinth in a park where there could be rotating works annually that are commissioned by the park board that would attract more people to the city. Studies show that art tourism bring more people to the city. Art tourism, that includes music, bring more people to the city than all the sports teams combined. So I want to keep it short and sweet because I'd like to push that initiative forward, even if I'm here by myself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, and that's something obviously we'll ask the park staff to just take a look at and see where we go with there. And I know it's something that you've talked to us before about, and parks are always a great place for art.
Michael, I know Artworks is very interested in just joining us at a table to talk about how we can bring more arts into the parks. And I agree with you. They're a very logical marriage.
Thank you for being here again.
Thank you.
And finally, but last but not least, Lieutenant Almazan Lacey Emily. ROTC, I bet. Okay.
I had no idea skating was so big. Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Lieutenant Amazon. I'm an assistant instructor over at the ROTC program at UC. So on behalf of them, I'm here. The reason I come in today is because we had an incident happen, I believe, a week or two ago, where one of our cadets was on. We do a lot of our training on Burnett Woods. Every Wednesday from 2 to 4:30, we do our tactical lab. So cadets are out there in the woods, they're learning tactics, land navigation, a lot of battle drills. And so about 2 weeks ago, they were parked, and I think there was a parking sign that said from like 2 to 4. And so our lab ran a little past 4. And so when he got to his car, there's a tow truck right behind them. And so I think this is like an issue that's just like sort of been ongoing, but no one's really like had the time to seek out like what we need to do. We've called a few times. And so we're really trying to figure out what we can do to assist our cadets in not having this problem, because we've been out there probably for the last like 7 years. And so it's something that is continuous. It's every Wednesday from about 2 to 5. And so we were like, you know, maybe we can provide our own placards for like our cadets when they're parked on that side. Just to, you know, not have them get towed. And we use a lot of the parks around the local area. So we've had cadets go out and like clean parks because it's space that we're going to use. You know, so this is definitely like a relationship that we want to build. We have a lot of new cadre, a lot of new instructors. So we're trying to see like what we can do to help you so that you can help us, because our program has been growing. And so that's a space that we're going to continue to use on Wednesdays.
Lieutenant, just real quickly, what street was it on that the tow truck was involved?
It was on, give me 1 second, I'm gonna pull up the map.
Was it inside the park?
You know where there's like a barrier. And so it was right on the other side of the barrier. You know, there's like a statue and it's like down that hill. And
I gotcha.
so-
If somebody on our team will get your information, if it was inside the park, then that's something we can look into. If it was on like MLK or Clifton Avenue.
No. It was inside the park.
Okay,
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
thank you very much.
Thank you for coming here. I want to, Jason, who is the point person that interacts for parking such as that in Burnet Woods?
I mean, I don't know that we do any interaction with that. That's why I didn't know there were
Who
restrictions.
manages the parking aspect?
That would be the city parking. And so,
And Dave Michelle and then our police representative.
but that's if there's like illegal parking.
Yeah, but you apply and get parking permits through the park, correct?
Yes, so we control the parking on certain streets.
Within the park.
So we could organize getting a special permit for the things.
I think there's a lot we can do to figure this out. I'm not aware that we do any towing. But I can look into that. My guess was that it might have been on, and I also don't know I'm not familiar enough with that area to know what the parking restrictions are, but I don't know why at 4 o'clock we would start towing.
Right, that was my question.
So which is why I assumed it was on one of the streets that might be like a commuter street.
Right.
There are commuter streets.
And I can get with you offline.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. On a lot of commuter streets, they, from 4 to 6, they shut down parking meters that are normally open in order to allow traffic to get to the highways.
Yeah.
But if it's internal, like I said, I haven't heard of us doing any towing.
You don't.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Lou.
That is
But
strictly a Cincinnati parking, enforcement mechanism or the police. I can assure you, no parks employee.
Yeah.
I said that if you can get with Antoine, who's at the front desk, and just make sure you leave his information, we'll follow up with you, find out, send us the actual, this is where it was, and we'll figure out what's going on.
Absolutely.
Like Kelly said, we're always looking for partnerships for folks to use the park. So if you guys need to figure out a way to make sure you can park and do your training, we can work with you on that.
Perfect. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
We'll get this resolved. Thank you. Okay, that's all of our comments here in public. I do want to emphasize that we do get comments throughout the month between our meetings that come in via email or snail mail. We still get some in the mail. We have had issues this month, or letters or emails regarding Edgewood Grove in Clifton, Tom Jones Commons. We've talked about Miyawaki Forests that we'll look into, Eden Park concerns, emails about Potter's Field out on the west side, and also emails pro and con against the dog park in Burnet Woods. So we encourage any continued public comments, public input. We appreciate it. It is circulated. Everything that comes in is circulated to all the board members. We see it, and we do appreciate that. Okay, moving on to our actual meeting agenda here. The first thing we've got is an administrative action, and that is approving the minutes from our prior meeting on August the 15th. I hope that We've had an opportunity to review those. Are there any additions, corrections, modifications? I think Kelly has done a wonderful job. If Kelly has done these, appreciate your work with that. If there's no changes, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
And a second. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly. Another month well done. Now, we've got some fun stuff. Jason, you want to introduce our visitors?
Yes, so first up is Morgan Regood, who's going to has a presentation for us about the skate park. It is a video that we're gonna show. I will point out that we tested the video last night. And the video, it's great, you're gonna see it here, but over YouTube, which is the way we broadcast live, the music doesn't come through for whatever reason. So we'll hear the music. Those listening at home are missing out on some fun music. So just imagine fun music in your head. Hum along.
Turn on your radios and.
But I will point out that because the music doesn't go through YouTube, any sort of chatter could be picked up through this. So if anybody's talking in the audience or whatever, then feel free to laugh and clap or whatever. But if anybody's talking, it might come up as the only music, as the only sound for those listening at home. So, and then once the video, so do you want to introduce the video or do you just want to play and then speak afterwards?
Yeah, I would love to, Jason, and thank you all for being here. I do want to distinguish this because several folks have mentioned a skate park. This is not the skate park project. That's different. I love skate parks too, but what we are building here is community around flat ground cruising. So this is a completely level space. Doesn't have ramps, rails, bowls, and those concrete features that you typically see folks in aggressive skating doing tricks on. So I'm here for the Sawyer Point skating rink. I'm sharing with you the community that's rallied around this place, showing you the users, the use cases, and the potential for this, with hopes that I can get your blessing and we can move forward together through working out some of the design possibilities. So we want to understand what this space could be, the potential that it has to continue invigorating our parks. Since I'm showing a video today, I wanted you to have a few key points from the video in front of you while you watch, front and back supplement to our presentation. Thanks. Thank you all so much for supporting this so far, and I'd love to start the video and share with you. All right. We've been pulling together feedback from users. We've been programming the space. We've been working together with community partners. We've been spreading joy in the park and activating a space that's been out of use for a long time, and we've seen the rental revenue pick up. We've seen the interest absolutely grow, and we've talked to hundreds of people in the park directly who are rediscovering the space like they never have. And we see the potential. We want to explore it further. We are so thankful for everything that you and your team, Lou and his waterfront staff have specifically helped support. And we want to see what's possible. So we hope that you'll give us your blessing to pursue the design that will help us determine a level of appropriate investment to reap the maximum amount of value and community benefit for the space. Thank you for your time.
Morgan,
Yes, ma'am.
you have $200,000 in the bank, correct?
I think 250.
$250,000 in the bank.
Yes.
Do you know what the resurfacing of the rink itself, do you know what the cost of that is?
Well, actually, I'll answer that. We'll have better numbers once we are able to move to an actual design, which is our hope today. There's options, so you can.
Because right away, I think step one, let's get the surface parameters. And before we bite into a huge bullet that's going to take 10 years to accomplish. You see what I mean? Let's do something that can be done now.
We completely agree. I mean, there are options to just resurface, and I think Mr. Rigo had more than 20,000.
There are a couple of steps that we can do. So there's a temporary step where we can just resurface and leave some of the cracks in there, but we can fill them a bit. And it'll buy us the time that we have between early next year and the time that we're able to start with the actual redo of the project. But when we redo the project, there are a number of different elements that could come in and affect what the cost of the surface will be, depending on where the poles sit. For instance, if there's a pole that has to go into the middle, if that's what the architects determine, then that'll change what that surface would cost. So it really requires us to get into the design phase with architects that are licensed to understand what the geotech work to put up a tent of that scale will require. So we don't have a great answer on what that cost is now until we see what their designs are going to be, what the requirements are going to be. But we're thinking that as an interim step, just to provide a safer surface for next year, it's going to probably be under $30,000 for us to do just a skim surface redo on the facility so that we don't have those major cracks and that it's a lot more smooth for the skaters to go around. So that is the start.
And this is just the beginning of staging out the process and actually knowing those measurements so we can get exact numbers and decide, with your help, do we pursue a good, better, or best model?
And if I could just say thank you to the Vice Mayor for being with us today and the opportunity to access some tip dollars. We're a part of transformational projects. That's what the foundation's here to help you with. And so this is the concept, and we are excited to move forward with design and just appreciate the consideration of all aspects, the resurfacing, a beautiful translucent lid potentially, and refurbishment of the concession areas. Morgan's done an amazing job these last 2 years and Abby. Building up a family and a community. And so we're just, on behalf of the foundation and, Brian, please, but we're just honored to work alongside of her and we believe in this project with our whole heart.
I would just say, I remember when we were, when Dan and I were part of the selection committee to have the honor to select this human over here to do the fantastic job he's doing. But one of the things that was a consistent question from you all was, how do we create more social equity in our communities? That was a major, important part for you. This is a perfect example of how we can accomplish that in our riverfront.
Yeah.
So.
I have a couple questions and a couple concerns that I'd like to hear addressed. Let me get through them and then I'll turn it over to you. First of all, I'm so inspired by everyone here that spoke, the video. This is an immensely exciting opportunity. It's very clear how much community this has the opportunity to build. It already has, and we haven't even done anything except for organize, which is one of the most important components of making a place work. So that's my first question is, I see in here, we've got a plan for events, and this is a big opportunity to create a place that Cincinnatians and even Masonites can use. Who organizes this? Who manages this thing? I know that there's a deep grassroots effort right now, but how does this thing look in the future? That's my question number one. And then my question number two, coming into this meeting, because we got absolutely zero in our deck, so I'm learning everything as we sit here. My concern, I'll use the word concern, with moving forward with the design right now is, and you may have the answer to this, is a little bit of a cart before the horse. There's a big capital stack. I see 6-8 items listed here, and we have $250,000 in the bank. The concern is, I think where Susie was headed with this is, we're going to go out with the design. What are the possibilities, and come back with all these very exciting improvements that's a big bar to raise. And I think that it's important for us to have alignment on what the scope and scale of this project is before we spend $100,000 on a hope and a dream. So what is the thinking on where are we in just round order of magnitude of the scale of this project? I think this is an important thing for us to have some alignment on, because everybody in this room has a different idea of what this is.
Well, I can say, if I could just say first, it's the three major components that we talked about. It's the rink surface, a canopy top, and the refurbishment of the concession stands. The goal is that you have an active pickleball program right now. That was another transformational project for Sawyer Point. So the goal is that you have a dedicated recreation specialist there during a hot season, and perhaps that we could afford to help you operate and have another, or share that opportunity and have one complex where both could be representing and helping with the programming. The foundation's dedicated to activating that space. And so our team, Jen Buckholtz and Lindsay Wilhelm and Colleen O'Connor, like, we're helping manage those activities alongside of this volunteer leadership and all of these wonderful volunteers. And so we remain committed and have intentions to, increase that on behalf, to operate it fully.
So Jennifer, is this $1 million project, or is this a $4 million project?
This is about a $5 million project.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is, that's striking. What is the project? I mean, it's a great video and it's a great amenity. What is the vision for what this project is, to have a concept of a $5 million project?
We got those numbers based on sitting down with Jason and Joel and getting real estimates on what they thought a true canopy could be. And so we're getting those numbers roughly. We thought initially it was $1.5 million. Then we were told it was $3 million. And then we sat down and we're like, okay, my gosh, this is a $5 million project, which I will say will raise enough to hold an endowment to maintain that space as well, to sustain it. So the project is those major 3 components.
So let me be let me be clear. Did you just say that the foundation was committing to raising $5 million for the project?
If need be.
Towing it?
And working closely with our friends, Jay and Michelle, and obtaining, TIF financing as well. Working through that with the Downtown Residents Council.
So what's the status of that? You're working with the downtown or
Need
TIF
a
money?
design in order to submit the application. And so we've made a presentation, thankfully. Do you want to just, we were invited by the vice mayor to present to the Downtown Residents Council in June. Outstanding is a $500,000 opportunity to which we can submit to the planning commission once we have a conceptual design.
You may always speak at our meetings. You do not have to ask.
Okay.
No, we'll give you at least 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, because, I actually did not fill out a card. But, so I wanted to say, someone mentioned they didn't know anything about the skating rink. And so all these wonderful people and so many more came down to talk to us during public comment before our budget. And so this was way back in April. And so we got really excited. We, city council, got really excited about this project. I mean, we heard about the economic opportunity, bringing all these tourists into Cincinnati. We love that. Bringing investment in Cincinnati, the community that it's building, the fact that it's not just skating. I mean, it's real community. You heard stories, personal stories, and we heard a lot of those. And so we realized how important this is. It's not just skating. I mean, it's community, it's economic development. It's what the city needs. We need to bring our young people here and keep them here. And it's also multi-generational and healthy. And so there's so many advantages of it. And so they wanted the first group that came. I mean, the first request was they needed $200,000 for the actual design of it. And so they raised, I think in 24 hours in a short time, 100,000. And so city council, out of its budget, we gave the other 100,000. So then we've been talking to Jason to say, show us that design. Let's see what's next. Meanwhile, this group did go down to the Downtown Residents Council to talk to them about the TIF. As maybe part of that could be used as kind of a base to start the fundraising. And then there would have to be a lot of private fundraising, and they'll probably come back to the city and ask for more, which, we fully expect. But there's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of support on city council. And so, I just encourage you, let's get this design. Let's see what the design is. Let's see what it takes. And then let's move forward. This is a real plus for the city.
I like the marriage too. Marriage between the pickleball and you.
Yeah.
I think that is really fun.
Very.
Having witnessed having a daughter who plays in the pickleball, Billy walked down there. It is incredibly successful.
As a skater, I met so many people down at the parks over the past 2 years. I met everybody from all parks. And it's just, I played pickleball for the first time ever. I didn't even play pickleball until I started going down there. So, I mean, like, it's a version.
It's much more dangerous than skating.
Yeah. I took the fall on pickleball. You took the ball on the skates.
I have another question. I'm just asking. So one of the things we talk about all the time, Brian, you and I talk about this too, are priorities and the demands on the staff for all the things that are out there. If anybody has the time to read Joel's report, you'll see how much that team is overseeing and managing. There's a limit to how much this team can accomplish.
We haven't reached it yet. We have not reached that.
Well, hang on, Lou, you may speak for yourself, but it's not everyone. The planning and design team has got a capacity issue. There's no question. So here is my question. Is there an opportunity for the foundation to hire and oversee this initial design phase?
If with approval, we'd love to do that.
Sure. I mean,
And obviously with having Mr. Rigo here and helping us through development and having experts and making sure that your team is okay along the way, we would love to be a part of moving it forward.
We formed a steering committee of seasoned park advocates and professionals and
Real estate people.
real estate and skaters. So we could take this off your plate.
yeah, and look, I understand this is a public park, but I know that as
Yeah.
well as we understand the real capacity issues. to take on
Respect that.
the start of a new project that.
Yeah, when we met with Jason and Joel, we discussed that at length as well. And frankly, Joel was very excited about.
Everyone's excited.
Everybody's excited.
Everybody's excited.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know.
I personally get
that kind of
excited
spirit
when
is-
I leave. I'm like, why did I
I
say
know,
yes?
I know.
Yeah,
Jason
Time.
says we can walk and chew gum, right? And the goal is that we have better alignment and we respect the position the team has been in. We get it. We're here. We would love to advance it and take on whatever responsibilities you would allow us to. Really.
Is that something that we can decide today, or do we need to take that back and discuss the ramifications of that?
So, yeah, that's absolutely something we can decide today, I think. There's probably some logistics of working out kind of how that works. As far as the city's $100,000 and making sure that could go towards the foundation if need be, or if the $100,000 that was raised was enough to hire a designer. We would obviously participate along the way. As a little bit of background to the kind of scope, Jennifer mentioned how we started out, it was $1 million and then $3 million. We put together kind of an in-house, here's a vision for this that we think we could do in-house that would provide, you know, maybe $1.5 million project. And then in meeting with Morgan and Eddie and some of the team, it was clear that their vision was the beautiful stuff you saw in this, right? Creating a truly world renowned kind of area. And the challenges that we identified and you know, the $5 million is really not based on anything other than that's like 180-foot wide park diameter. If we all go back to our high school geometry, I'm like geology, that's not right. Geometry classes, and that requires quite a bit of engineering. And so Joel and his team right away said, if we were going to do something that grand, that's going to require an outside firm to develop for us. And it could be very expensive, even though, you know, if we put some sunshades over one side of it, we can probably do that for several $100,000. But if we're going to go that entire span, especially trying to keep that free, you know, all the skaters want to avoid running into poles. I'm not as skilled as any of these guys. I want to avoid running into poles. And so those will be some of the questions that will be developed during the process, right? Eddie mentioned potentially a pole. We'd want to keep that to a minimum. Currently, there are a lot of connection points in the ground for the tent that's there for Montgomery Inn. And that tent is a massive tent. But if you look at it from above, and currently on Google Earth, I think it's on there, it's a very small portion of that, right? We're talking about a giant canopy to truly do it right. And we talked about a couple different, like, well, what if we did 2 half pieces or 2 small ones? And Eddie and Morgan are like, we want to do the big one. So that's where we kind of guarded, well, that could be 5 million. It could be less. Maybe an engineering firm comes up and they're like, no, we got a brilliant way to do this on the cheap or cheaper than 5 million, but we wanted to at least allow that the scope would be, if we do something that grand, that's what it is. In addition, I don't want to speak out of turn, but we've also talked about things like in saying a canopy, things like a grandstand, which I know is very important to Eddie. So folks can watch this. So it can be this kind of event area. The audio-visual components that could be added to that. I know Commissioner Lee knows a lot about that, but that could be another big piece of it. So we kind of wanted to say, all right, we're making a big shift from this like 1.5 million. We're going to refurbish this and make it like a lot of fun to we're really going to do something visionary. So all that said, I think with the right mechanics of it, I think that the request I would have today would be for the board to approve asking the foundation or authorizing the foundation to design an element of the park. And if the board would approve that, then we would work on our team and with the city law department and city council to make sure that that fit into how the MOU relationship is as it currently runs, and make sure all that sets up right. But we can do all that behind the scenes and then bring it back to you for updates and approvals as anything changes. But if the park board would work to decide to authorize them to do that, we could absolutely do that.
Well, I don't even think we need to approve.
Cool.
The foundation, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But the thing I would like to know is, can we encourage, however we go about doing this is always a difficult thing as far as I'm concerned, is the way we spend money.
Right.
It's very complex. At any rate, please make it safe now, today.
Yes.
By tomorrow, please make it safe.
The concrete's completely unleveled, one side's the hill, the other side's downhill. You got cracks, crevices, you got tent pole posts, you got
Gotta make it.
rocks, dirt, the trees bring debris on. I'm out
We
there
got-
weekly with a leaf blower myself.
Yeah.
Eating by myself.
That's to me, what our real thrust should be, is let's make it safe first. Before we go further down the road, please make it safe. I question doing the temporary $30,000 thing, because having refurbished a tennis court on the cheap it lasts 1 year before the freeze thaw takes over and every crack is right back. So anyway, I just bring that to the table.
And it wasn't that cheap either. to
No.
do that.
So, I mean, you know, don't be penny wise and pound foolish.
So for.
We could definitely internally work with the foundation to develop a plan to resurface it now. Hopefully it'll last more than a year. We'll at least make that a goal, but with the understanding that then the whole surface could get torn up, resurfaced, changed, whatever during the design phase. We could move forward with that with available resources and bandwidth.
I think that's important.
But with available bandwidth, we can talk to the foundation about how we'll fund the refurbishment once we know what it costs.
So to Molly's comment about priorities, so how does shifting the initial aspects of working with the designer impact, does that save you guys time? Because I'm hearing there's a lot of time that you've spent and Joel and I don't know who else already. Lou.
No limit, no limit to Lou.
No limit, Lou.
No limit.
All right.
So it will change the amount of time it takes for us. And I don't want to speak for Joel, though it's a little bit my job, but if we do this internally and we manage the contract, then we've got to go through the city's procurement process to hire the firm, which is a kind of a 3-month bidding process. We have to put together the bid documents. Now, to be clear, we can do that.
Why would you do that if the
We
foundation?
would not. So that's what I'm saying. That would shift. If we did it internally, we would have to do that. If we don't, they can go out, they can hire somebody, they can move forward with that. So instead of us scheduling the meetings and us being the point of contact with the designer, we would merely be showing up to the meetings, kind of helping with scope. Somebody mentioned small, medium, large. I think that's one thing we would still push for. Obviously, it's the foundation's nickel at that point, but we would still push for there to be some different levels of the design in order to make sure at the end, not just at the end of everything, but as we move into the fundraising phase, you know, like everybody said, this is exciting, but we'll learn a lot about it as we start to fundraise. And they know more about fundraising than I do, but my imagination or my guess is that, you know, we'll see, right? And it might be that we don't like, oh, 3 million feels like the right project. It might be that 5 million feels like the right project, but we would encourage that throughout it. And we would obviously consult on that and kind of advise and make sure that we would be looking out for the park's interest and park to make sure that like we don't lose any kind of key.
You need to be on the team.
Correct, exactly. But we wouldn't be managing it. We would simply be advising. And then ultimately at the end of that process, and this is the first time we've done this, but at the end of that process, I would imagine again that the foundation would have a couple of different plans, hopefully that we've all kind of had some feedback on. They might not be necessarily our preference because we won't be the deciders. It will be their preference, but they'll at least have plans that we've had feedback on, we've been able to comment on. And then at that point, we'd bring that back with kind of our team's recommendation. Which hopefully aligns perfectly, but it's possible that we might be like this. And then at that point, that would be up for the board to decide which one we went forward on. But again, we would be involved in all of that along the way to make sure that it kind of aligns with.
And it's pretty, please.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Well, I think what we're hearing then is that we would like to move forward with looking at what we're talking about. Because I know you all have spent a lot of time. And as Molly said, this is the first time we're seeing what it is you want to do. And so I think to be able to move forward with saying, is this something we want to spend an additional $5 million on, even if it's not city money, you know, spending that much money for this type of thing, we need to know what we're talking about. So I think from our perspective, I think it would be better for you all to be able to work with the designer and develop what the plan is, what the scope is, and how much we're talking about, and then bring it back to us. We can all know exactly what we're looking at. You have a sense for how much money would have to be raised to do what your vision is. I think that would be the appropriate.
And to make sure one of us is involved, I did join the skating committee, just so I can be right there watching for us. So that way, you know, I can report back to you all too and say, this is what's going on, this is how it's being done. So I am involved in a way too. That's why I haven't spoken much about it.
Okay.
I wanted you to know that.
Well, that's
Great.
a great point, you know, and that's good, you know, and then it's sort of your responsibility to help keep us up to speed as
Yes,
well. Great.
Can I interrupt for just a moment?
Sure.
You know, I may not be a lot of people.
It is.
So in your approval
going forward looking at design, does that also include what Susie was talking about, creating a safe surface at this point?
Yeah.
Because I think that is.
So internally, we'll work with our team to develop a plan to get it resurfaced, and we'll get a bid for that, and we'll run that as a city project. We've talked to the foundation about potentially bringing funds available for that. We'll obviously look at what funds we have available, and we'll develop that kind of interim plan to just like.
Good,
Make it
because I
safe.
am working state and I'm going to end up.
You don't want to be as statistic is what you're saying, Kathy.
So, just let me just say, I really appreciate your work. I mean, you guys are just phenomenal. Our parks in Cincinnati are award winning because of you and your team here at the Parks Board. Right, but you guys too. And so you all are leading it. And I just really have to say, from the city, all of us, we really appreciate your work. And what I really, really love, and it just warms my heart, is the way you listen to the community and involve the community in plan. That's not always the case. You guys are really special. Thank you for that.
Thank
For
you.
saying that. We don't hear that all the time, so I. Thank you.
But you do hear it from the foundation. We have a great
That's right.
relationship.
Yes.
That's right.
We're so pleased that Jason's on board. And there's a bright future for both of our organizations to work together. Over 28 years, we've raised $100 million in private money for our parks. What do we have to do to get the next 100 million? Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
The private element is so important.
It's super important. And frankly,
Grateful.
it's at a level that exceeds what you would normally see in a market of this size. And that speaks volumes about our community. So thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So, Brian.
So if I am hearing what we'd like to do, and I think we should make a motion to support the foundation moving forward with design plans or conceptual design. How's that? Where's Joel? Is that the right frame? Conceptual design.
He'll be in when some seats open up. You've got a lot of talking to do. Probably watch my video.
With the understanding that we're excited about the project. We would just like to understand fully what the project entails. And so that will
Get started on that.
So I'll go ahead and make that motion if
But
there's,
part of that motion
yeah,
is that Jason will be working,
with the foundation. to
but
look
no, working internally
Oh,
on the resurfacing.
resurfacing.
So if I could capture it, so the motion is for park staff to develop a plan to resurface it in the immediacy, in the next, as soon as we can. And then to work with, or then to authorize the foundation to move forward with planning, and then park staff will staff that and kind of attend those meetings and help consult, but consulting rather than running the project.
Can I clarify?
Mhm.
For planning and hiring of a design and architecture and engineering firm
Mhm.
to
Do
give
that.
us some
Yep,
conceptual drawings.
exactly.
That's right.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So is there a second?
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all those
I
in
mean-
favor, okay.
Yeah, no, we turned it around back to the foundation. So if you all are happy about
We're
this.
thrilled.
We are so
Okay.
excited. Thank you for your partnership.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
all. Thank
And,
you all
and
so much.
I'll note that our Commissioner Phyllis McCollum is on the line with us. So there's a motion, Phyllis, on the floor for this approval. And because you're remote, we do need to do a roll call. So Kelly, are you in a position?
I can do the roll call.
Okay, Jason, would you do a roll call, please?
President Getz,
Yes.
Vice President North,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis, for joining us. Thank you for the presentation and for the excitement and for all of you that are here supporting this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have something to do with red bikes. Does anybody know anything about red bikes? Can introduce this.
So we'll give everybody a second.
Okay.
Decide if they want to stay or not. Thanks you.
Thank you.
You look good in the video, man.
Thanks.
Very several clips.
I don't know, he is starting to draw.
They would push for the family.
Well, when
Primary.
with no doubt. For those, they can do it.
Oh, right.
They're good.
But let them close the doors. You know. Do you have the slides ready, Kelly? Kelly, do you have the slides ready?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes, yeah.
So I do have that down.
Okay,
Calendar on.
Oh, there you are, Joel.
we're back. We're back. All right, Jason.
So it's my pleasure to welcome Anastasia Mileham to the park board. Anastasia is the vice president of the Red Bike Board for the and she's also runs Experience Cincinnati, which is used to be called Source Cincinnati, kind of lives in the chamber in the CDB world. And it does great stuff, kind of promoting Cincinnati to national trade magazines and bring people here. We've been friends for a long time, obviously, because I used to work at Red Bike. This is the first time that Red Bike has come to me in my new role and asked about adding a station to a park. We've got Red Bike stations in several parks: Ziegler Park, Washington Park, down by Snail Park, Hedberry, International Freedom Park, International Friendship Park, Sawyer Point, Hoffner Park, several. And so this one would be to put one in Evanston. This is normally not necessarily the thing I would bring to the park board because it's an installation of something like a park bench or like an amenity, but when I have full transparency, I used to work at Red Bike, so I don't just want Red Bike stations to start popping up and people are asking. So I wanted to have kind of a full presentation and approval by the board just to make sure everything's kind of out in the open.
Great, thank you and welcome.
Thank you. And I wanted to say I'm here today because the executive director of Red Bike and half his team is in Toronto for the North American Bike Share and Scooter Share Association Conference.
Wow.
So he asked if I would be here. I'm the incoming chair for Red Bike. So I'm
Perfect.
excited to be here. You could do this yourself, but thanks for inviting me to get your blessing on this. So Red Bike received a grant from the city a couple years ago of $500,000 to expand into 3 new neighborhoods. And we knew that we couldn't do, we could put the new stations in, but we couldn't necessarily operate them. So we waited a couple years until we could match it with an ODOT grant. And have now moved forward this summer. We put Madisonville, 3 new stations in Madisonville. So the next move here is moving into Evanston. And if you want to, we really since the beginning of Red Bike have been a community oriented planning around around the whole system and where the stations are. And it's been important to us to engage all the community councils and where we go and what we're doing. So we did the same in Evanston, multiple meetings, multiple suggestions on where to put these 3 new stations in Evanston. And the one, if you want to move forward, that is important to this group here is Owl's Nest Park. We're not sure yet where the other 2, where the business district goes. But what we've looked at is 6 docks in Owl's Nest Park. Yeah, we're gonna move forward. These are new stations. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the new ones, but they're single station docks. There's a kiosk. They're they don't rely on electricity or solar. They're powered by batteries. They are easy to install and remove. So when Owl's Nest Park is renovated, we can easily move them if we need to. Forward. The location determined by the community was the northwest corner of Owl's Nest Park. It was easily accessible. It was ADA. It's under lighting. They felt like it was easier accessed from the Evanston community, and that it wasn't in any sight lines. So if you want to move forward, it's just this is more detail on the space. It takes up very little space. It's not in any way. It's not in any sight lines. And really, that's it. I mean, we just are seeking your blessing on putting this 6 dock station in Owl's Nest Park.
Thank you. Well, hopefully this will be the last time you have to do this because we have full confidence in Jason and his knowledge. And it's such a great collaboration with putting red bikes into parks. I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense. And
The most used stations.
it, absolutely. And any way that we can bring people into our parks, and this does it. I appreciate that you went through the community process where they said this is the best place. From our perspective, we've sort of been focusing on the other side of that park. So I think a lot of will be going on there. So this is a perfect spot for it, in my opinion. Commissioners, any comments, questions?
Nope.
I fully appreciate Jason's concern with transparency. But I would welcome his input in supporting additional reg bike stations in parks where you see fit. But
I think this would be a little less complex than previous topics.
you think? So with that, do I have, there's a motion to permit,
I should point out real quick, as with all red bike stations, there's no cost to the parks. That the station's installed by the park at the expense of red bike, the station's maintained at the expense of red bike. In my days, we would. Yeah. Yep. And we would hop to it if parks reported any sort of trash or anything around the stations. We always, when our people are there, we clean up around it. Well, when their people are there, and I've had nothing but the same reports since I've moved to this side of the table. So.
And no liability.
Correct. They have insurance and we're listed as an additional insured.
so with that,
On the topic.
do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Those in favor say no.
Roll call.
Jason, please do a roll call.
President Getz.
Yes.
Vice President North.
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
And Commissioner McCallum.
Yes.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
being here.
Anastasia.
Okay, we'll move on now to, we've got planning and design. There's a couple things going on, Jason. I mean, Joel, I do that every time.
Yeah.
I look at him and I call too many J's.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you?
Morning.
Good,
Good
Joel,
morning.
for you. Like the kicks?
Very much. I gotta keep up with this.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Thank you all. I have a few things to talk about this morning. As usual, if you need more information on any subject, please let me know. We'll dive right in. I think these action items are in order. Steve, that you'll see is my first action item. That is a update by myself and Jason, just talking about all the money that's necessary to complete the Ludlow project, just making you all aware of everything that we're doing so that you know how the money was being spent. I included a table that essentially shows we had already encumbered $1.45 million for the major renovation that you know about. That included $50,000 in contingency. We've used $40,000 of that to date. The storm repairs that are already complete, the asphalt repairs that are coming, that $26,700, that is Alita. They're scheduled to begin October 2nd to do that work. The site fencing is right now, that one's been a mess, kind of going back and forth. We tried to bid that. It was a little bit over $50,000. Purchasing told us to go back and get 3 quotes, which we tried to do and did not receive 3 quotes. So they've allowed us to do this project under the third-party agreement via Megan, who's already on site doing everything else. Those folks are getting us a proposal right now. We should have that within the week, really. So we can update you all. I actually have that as an action item coming up, but we'll continue to go through the table here. The storage building, both of those numbers you see in red, both for that and the fencing, are best estimates based on KZF's estimates that they gave us. So we're throwing those numbers in to move this money around. IT renovations, that's a real number. That work has actually started this week. So they expect to be done with those in the next 2 weeks. Signage, that's in Rockies Court, but that is new signage for the new building. Furniture, the folks at DNR are working through that, what they need to furnish and outfit that new building. We're confident that that is the correct number. And Crystal have told us that that will cover what they need to do. We're throwing in an additional contingency just because we have 2 months left in the project and we're down to $10,000. We've already fixed the stairs. All of that stuff is good and actually it's complete. So I just didn't want to have to come back to you all for $25,000 more. If something else comes up, a gutter, a spout, something in the next 2 months. So I don't know how we need to move forward with action on this, but essentially the bottom total highlighted there shows that $323,014 more needs to be moved from the Reading Road sale funds such that we can fund the entirety of the Ludlow site.
what I'd like to do is hit these action items as Joel's going through them for us. So go ahead.
Hang on a second. On this spreadsheet, I didn't get my calculator out, but I roughly added it up and I couldn't understand this spreadsheet. Are we saying that all these line items here from Ludlow building renovation down through contingency, are those supposed to add up to the 1,874,000?
So,
Nothing except the additional contingency should add to that 174,674,8.
everything down to the 50,000 adds up to 1.874.
Yep.
25,000 in additional contingency is what gets us to 1.9 million.
That was a holdover, Molly, just to ensure that those numbers were not an off dollar amount. 1.9 million clean was why we
We
added.
voted and funded the top three line items. The 323,000 is everything from Ludlow site fencing down to the contingency. And that gets us to the 1.9 million.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we approved already how much?
1.45 million, the top line item, and then 100,000 for the storm repairs have been complete. 26 to almost 27,000 for the asphalt repairs, which they are held off on. We had the quote and ready to go, but we held off on until they got a lot of the site equipment off. They were doing roofing, they were doing a lot of some of the big truck stuff, and they wanted to just leave that open. And because once you do the asphalt repairs, you gotta give it a couple days to rest. And so they're getting ready to do that, like Joel said, on October 2nd. And then currently we're moving over the last bit. So the sale of the Reading Road facility was about 2.1 million. This takes us to 1.9 million. When we were talking about the 1.45 million back in January, Joel pointed out that he thought that at the time we had 4 additional projects: the stormwater, the asphalt, the fencing, and the storage facility. He estimated about 100,000 for each of those, which would have got us to right around 1.85 million. So we're kind of right on what Joel was estimating then. And then obviously furniture and the design, the IT, some of those things got added on. But it gets us right to about what he said it would be in the beginning.
So Joel, what's your level of confidence that this is it? I understand.
95%. We'll say that.
Don't be afraid if, you know. You
Now
just
that-
on the way, I'm just trying to get a feel for where we really are is seeing the end of this project.
I worry about stuff I can't see. All that stuff is fixed. We were worried that there was going to be an additional leak. As the building has been reconfigured and we got the stormwater stuff, the guys kept saying that they were seeing efflorescence on the inside of the brick, which is when you see the white powder on the inside, which means one of two things. You're either getting water right behind that saturated, or we found that the water's drying out and it has been saturated. So we were worried about that one to the point where I wouldn't have told you we were confident. But now that I've resolved that, the roof is done, IT is in place. That was a wild card as well until this, but Chris got numbers together and they're already working. I'm fairly confident that everything else will be covered under the contingencies, especially with the 25,000 I gave myself in this buffer to get to 1.9. So over 95%.
When I heard about the steps, I was a little nervous we'd be back for a second, but it turned out those would be fixed within contingency.
So just a shout out to Chris McGee. We got a quote for those stairs. One of the powers of having the third party agreement is if we don't agree with a price, we can go to them as the construction manager and say, hey, it's too much money. They quoted us 25 or 26,000 originally. And Chris said, nope, that's way too much to do these stairs. So we went with another provider, very reputable. They did the same folks that did Trailside Nature Center. And it was $8,500 cheaper just to get the same bid. They did the work in 3 days. Just doing those kind of things and having that power under the third party agreement is helping us move quickly. We don't have to come back to you all for those difference in prices or guess what that's going to be. So sometimes in the right situation, when there's so many trades in one project, it's very, very good to have this third party construction like Megan is doing a great job.
Great.
So I'm very confident, Molly, that this is going to get us over the finish line.
That's great. Well, we're excited to see the completed project.
And the purpose of this one was to show you all, be 100% transparent with what we've spent, because like Jason said, the top 3 projects have already been funded and you've already approved, but the 100,000 and the 27,000 were things that we approved under 232,000. And we wanted to show you that all that money is being rectified back to the sale. And then that those monies will be replenished to go towards another general project that we can do pretty much anywhere in the system.
Joel, this is great. This is, from our perspective, any project that we do, it's great to say, this is what the total project is. This is what we anticipate. Is it gonna hit that on the target? No, it'll be close, but the purpose is to see what the total project is going to cost us, and that's what this does, and I appreciate your work in putting that together.
Very welcome.
And as we talk about other projects, I think that's the reason why I think we ask for, give us a total picture, so that rather than coming in sort of piecemeal, as I call it, have a total picture and then just work from there. So that's great. Great. Is there any questions about the approval of the additional 323? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, and a second? Second. All those or any other questions about it? All those in favor?
I can call the roll if you'd like me to.
Yeah, we do.
All right, Commissioner or President Katz.
Yes.
Vice President North. Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner McCallum.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Moving on.
Thank you, commissioners. Number 2 is the same exact item, essentially. If you look at the spreadsheet that we were just talking about, the 2 red numbers in there are things we don't have 100% certainty on price yet. The fencing is being bid right now through the third-party agreement. Megan, the same folks that are on site doing the rest of the work. Super advantageous to have them do it. We'll save on mobilization costs 100% for sure on that. Essentially, because we have that through the third-party agreement and they're bidding this right now, once we get that bid back, all of the contract information is done and we could essentially move forward with that pretty quick. So what I'm asking for today is essentially you allow me to not to exceed $110,000. And when that bid comes in, mobilize Megan to do that work so that we're not waiting until either a special meeting or the October meeting to let that go. So
Are you asking for this fencing and the storage building or just the fencing?
we don't have pricing even close enough, Jim, yet to do this.
So all you're seeking is not to exceed.
Not to exceed 110,000 fencing.
As we speak about the storage building, one of the things we found out recently is that NIOSH doesn't have plans to demolish on site at Reading Road right away. And the city, through the city department that's in charge of communicating with the federal government, says that they're not taking possession like day one. And so we will be able to store some stuff on site as we slowly transition. Staff will be moved over in December once this project's done. But if we have to store some stuff on site, we will have a little bit of flexibility there as Joel and his team are moving forward, getting this garage or pole barn put up.
Time frame.
Not specifically, but we just know that they're not mobilized to demolish it right away. So I've asked the city, I put it in the city's ear as they're talking to them to find out, to let them know that we need that and kind of make sure that's okay. But I can't imagine it'll take, we don't know for sure, but if, for instance, we dip into January a little bit, we should be okay.
So Joel has requested that we approve rather than having a formal contract in front of us, that we approve a not to exceed $110,000 contract with Megan.
Yes, sir.
With Megan for the fencing.
Yep, under the stipulations of the third-party agreement and all of the rulings and liquidated damages that apply to that contract.
And the purpose of giving him approval for not to exceed is to just keep the project moving, so he doesn't have to wait till the next meeting to get a specific contract.
Yeah, well, the pole barn is not crucial for day one. The site fencing is.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Any other questions about that? If not, I'll move that we accept the proposal. Your recommendation for approving a not to exceed $110,000 project as you for the fencing. Is there a second?
Second.
All those, sorry.
President,
Yes.
What habits die hard?
Yes.
President, yes. Vice President North.
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner McCallum.
We can come back.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners. I will update you all next month on exactly what that is, contract and how much it costs. I actually expect that one to be significantly less than the $110,000, but I've said that before.
You're covered.
Excellent.
On to California Woods. This is a review, and if you all certainly need more time, that's okay, but we're presenting before you today the exhibits and the request for proposal that we propose to send out for design services to help with California Woods. So in the packet, we've included essentially Alex Sherlock's work, where he's taken some incredible pictures and outlined geospatially with Matt DeBona some of the areas of worst concern. The goal of this project, from my standpoint, is to get a whole hydraulic analysis of the site to see where our erosion is coming from, how much water we're actually dealing with, so that we can adequately inform stabilization measures later. What we're hoping to achieve with this is volumetric calculations. As you know, we just did a pretty extensive 90-degree curve armoring at the worst spot in this. We're asking the consultant to identify essentially a 1 million to 1.1 million of the worst things on this site, because that's about the money we know that we have for this. Beyond that, we're asking them to conceptually plan what should be done with California Woods in the long term, such that if we got more funding, we would be able to enact projects, move the Trailside Nature Center, repurpose some of the roads, armor and change some of the paths, trails, things like that to make the site more advantageous. So it will inform a whole lot of things by having this study done. We anticipate that this work will take probably a year by the time, just because you have to essentially see all 4 seasons of this. Get some of the measurements with canopy off of the trees and figure those things out. So we're essentially asking today to be able to go out for bid for design services with this package.
The pictures are certainly sobering for what's going on.
Yeah.
We have 1.5 million in a project line item. Well, we had 1.5 million allocated by city council in a project line item. We've spent $200,000 of that last year to armor underneath the road. That was where the road was in imminent danger. A beautiful project. Was the plan, we think that it'll be about 200,000 for this design work, which will leave us in that 1 million to 1.1 million dollars left of that budget to do more of these projects. I think it's really creative how Joel's talking about it, where we kind of want them to give us the roadmap of, if you got 100,000 spending on this, you got 200,000 all the way down to 1.1 million. And then kind of what would be the next couple of projects beyond that as well, to kind of help us think through what the long-term strategy is here.
And the group that you would use to give you that road map, do they do the work also?
We are asking at the end of this for construction documents for essentially $1 million worth of the worst things. So at the end of this, we'll be able to go out for bids for that construction.
My question is, will they be giving you estimates for work that they will want to be
Should they also be awarded? No.
Okay,
This is strictly the design side of this on purpose. We wanted to separate this project like that so that we're getting non-biased information on what should happen for this part hydraulically. Not just who wants to sell us the next big. You know.
And at the end of the RFP, there would be a contract that we bring back to say, like, for 1.8 or 186,000 or whatever it ends up, please approve hiring, this firm to do that work. So.
One more thing, commissioners, very importantly, this is an RFP, as Mrs. Thomas used to grill me on quite a bit. Price is only 15% of this proposal. We did that so that we can pick essentially the best, most qualified people for this job. We're also asking them for the qualifications of their firm, similar projects that they've managed and completed successfully, and the roadmap for those, and utilization of disadvantaged enterprises, as we need to do for every city project.
50% of the scoring. So when we've selected this best firm, it will mostly be about their skill as a designer.
To say that, I mean to say that we don't just necessarily have to take the lowest. We can take the best, and we did this.
That'd be nice.
Yes, sir.
Change your pace.
We obviously will consider price, and everything considers price, especially with the quality of the folks that are doing it. But we want to ensure that we had the capability to use people we knew were going to do the best job for this park. It's a special place.
Well, is the outcome of this design, is it all infrastructure, or do they provide any guidance on like forestry?
Absolutely. Some of the studies will be ecological studies, and in conjunction with Gita and Garrett and our teams helping. There's some plants in California Woods that aren't anywhere else in Ohio for sure, in some places in the country. Yes, the dinosaur grass, as I call it. Garrett's gonna laugh if he's watching this, but there's some really cool stuff down there that's a part of that old growth forest. So ecological surveys as a part of hydrology will be included in this. We're not just asking them for structural stuff. In fact, it's almost the most non-structural project we do. The bridges over the streams are the most structural thing we'll do with this. Most of it is the stream stable? What is the next 50 years of climate change going to look at? People are modeling storms that are antiquated at this point, and we need to be forward thinking and think about what's actually happening and how much water and the intensity of that's actually going to happen. California Woods is one of a very special and significant place because the soil is so sandy that the erosion is amplified and is very, very quick. So you can see those changes quickly and you have to deal with them in a special way, contain stuff instead of just barricade it. You have to actually contain things. So in any case, it's a very special project that I'm more than excited to be working on. But structures will be only a small part of what we're trying to get at.
To be clear though, so the ecological surveys that will be done are in reference to the measures that they would recommend us take to restore the stream itself. So the focus is the stream.
Sure.
But the ecological aspects of the potential ecological impacts of doing restoration would be part of the considerations they would be putting forward.
Absolutely.
So to do the restoration, we might not want to go through this historic grove of trees. So here are multiple options that you may have in that construction process.
Got it.
Interestingly, Matt DeBona has all of the trees in there per height in LiDAR. So we know.
I know he does.
We know, like even some of these, he calls them, those are big boys. 125 feet tall and are the oldest of that species, certainly in Ohio. So.
Is he sure that they are male trees? That's what I want.
I'll work on change.
My response is, how do you know it's a boy, Matt?
Absolutely, absolutely. You all have any other
Questions for, Joel, this is exciting. Not because it's a project that is going to cost money to repair a forest, but this approach, this is a breath of fresh air. And I applaud the approach where you're taking a holistic view of this park and what we're going to need. So I just want to thank you for the work on this. And I think it's a great model. And we're going to see it again here in the future, just in the coming another line item. But your approach to looking at the park altogether rather than piecemeal and put a Band-Aid on a problem, it's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're trying to stay consistent with the city as well. Some of what we used to model this was I get to sit in on a lot of proposals and score a lot of proposals as a part of my job. So as they did the Alms Park or the Alt Park Valley Trail restoration, they went out for design services for that. Many of those facets are very close to what we're dealing with at California Woods. So we utilized some of that to make sure we were asking for the best stuff inside of this proposal to cover what we need to do.
Great. Do I have, we have we have a request from staff to approve a design work for California Woods. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, tell Jason. Yes.
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 Okay.
Got them all.
Thank you, Joel. And again,
Thank you, Commissioner.
great approach to this.
Thank you. Next one I have is action item F, which is Ashland Gardens renovations. Jason and I have been talking about this one for a few months. One of our architects, Andrew Campbell, put together this incredible outline. If you all are looking at that, I believe it made it into your packet.
Yes.
Kind of showing the major components of what this is. You'll notice specifically right off the bat that the fence and gate line item is $72,000. In the initial bids Chris was working on a couple months ago, this whole project was in the neighborhood of $130,000. We were going to bring it to you, talking through Jason about how to get the funding going. And that week, somebody hit the historic sign that actually says Flashman Gardens in the wrought iron. So that added that to that line item, $30,000 or $40,000 more to fix that. When Jason saw this and got wind of it, Andy took out the damaged parts of the fence as soon as we were aware of that stuff, such that we're not just having a whole bunch of junk sitting around. In large part, this request is to fix most of that fence. Initially, most of the fence work was to repair some of the rusted wrought iron and the other gates, the historic gates with the stacked stone, as you see in some of those pictures, and many places across the border fence, along with the other big things that we're doing within this are adding 3 places for benches. That's not existing right now. We're fixing a whole bunch of concrete trip hazards and adding a fountain that has a dog bowl component to it as well, as you see in there. So those are most of the main things we're asking for inside this. This is strictly a maintenance project to bring this park up to a minimum standard of care because we have a whole lot of accessibility issues and with the fence being this messed up, it was certainly time to do this. So today we are asking.
So that's the maintenance project, right? So there's a capital maintenance component of that for $198 dollars. Additionally, each year, and I just learned this, but each year we contract out the maintenance of Fleshman Gardens. I'm looking into the history of that, but we've done it for as long as folks can remember. It's probably because this park has an endowment, and that endowment hasn't been tapped into in a couple of years. We haven't taken a distribution from it. If we would have taken a 5% distribution in FY22 or 23, it would have been about $265,000. So we're asking for the current balance in the distributed portion is about $7,000, which has been pending down to pay this evergreen contract. So we are asking for $240,000 distribution from the larger endowment, which is less than the last 2 years of 5% distributions, in order to fund this capital project and then the Forever Green maintenance contract for the park for the year of $43,000.
Yes, and this is exactly how we had anticipated this happening. As you all recall, every year, the Finance Committee, Investment Committee, whatever we call it, is looking at distributions available out of our endowment funds. And to this point, we had accumulated in our Commissioners Fund money that had been distributed out of those endowments, and they've been sitting there. And that was at $1.7 million, I believe, Craig, I think it was like $7 million was sitting there of distributed, unspent money. So what we have done over the past few years is said, let's spend that down before we draw out of invested capital, out of invested endowments, money for these things. So this is exactly how it's worked. And we've always said the money doesn't go away. The money is still available for distribution, but let's just distribute it when it's actually needed. So this is what we're doing. That was a long-winded monologue for it. I think this is the right thing to do for this. And again, I'll since I'm talking, this is the other one where I really appreciate not just going in and fixing the fence. That was like the immediate thing. But while you're there, let's take a look around. And I know Mrs. Castellini always brings up the safety with the walkways and everything. So I appreciate this approach. Again, the holistic look at what can we do for that park.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's exactly why we hire who we've hired. Chris McGee is leading Andrew and their team. They're killing it, in my opinion. They're going through this with a fine tooth comb. Every project we put them on, we get a holistic approach, and at least we're having those discussions to know what should be the most prioritized thing for any situation. So give all the credit to them on this one. I had very little to do with putting that together. So
other questions on the Fleshman Garden proposal. So there's a proposal in front of us to, number one, distribute $240,000 from endowment funds available. And number two, we'll make it into one motion, if you so desire, that we then appropriate and approve spending the budget amount that Joel presented to us. So Commissioner Lee has moved. Is there a second? Second.
Thank you all.
Yes.
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 Phyllis?
Commissioner McCallum.
Okay, the motion passes. And again, thank you, Joel, for this is great.
Thank you, Commissioner. So next on my list is French Park, and this one has two parts to it. This may sound familiar to you. A couple of years ago, I know that previous.
It was done.
Yes, ma'am. So, before my time here, they were working on a project to restore some of this stuff. As we got on board and Chris started to look at this, we wanted to ensure that we were getting, again, that holistic approach for everything that we're doing. So Andrew Campbell, as you can see here, I don't know that the whole set is in your packet, but there are quite a few pages in here that show how he approaches a restoration project and a preservation project. You see even on page 49 of your packet, how he's showing you what criteria he's using and how he's going about deciding what he needs to do to fix these buildings. The majority of the $200,000 ask that we're searching here is to fix things that have been affected by water, gutters, all of the wood parts up on the roof. The roof itself is in pretty good shape, I believe, but they're redoing a whole lot of the windows. As you see here, Andrew's got those called out by window and what needs to happen to those. So some of the cool things you can do if you know how to preserve things, they're going to take some of those windows actually out, have them taken down to their shop, re-sandblasted and glazed. All of that stuff sounds very, very expensive to me. But they've assured me that we can do all of the things that are listed within this for the restoration of the building portion of this for under $200,000. If there's additional money left in a contingency, there are other things that need to be done at French Park. Certainly, they have those weighted beyond. One of them, I believe, is fixing some of the pavers that are loose within the patios. So we won't waste any of the money, even if this for budget. That portion of this, I believe, we're asking for $200,000. There is another portion to French Park that I think we're gonna, 225, excuse me, commissioners, 200,000 is what we think it's gonna cost. We're adding a $25,000 contingency in case there's something else that comes up as they look and bid these projects. So we're asking to be able to use $225,000 of this. And in just a few moments, we'll show you where that money is gonna come through in the reallocation change order that Jason's gonna talk about later. Second piece to French Park is something we've only known about for about a month. Bridge engineer sent me an email at the end of August saying, hey, I was walking my dog, walked down to the bottom of this culvert and there's a huge hole in the bottom of it. So let me see if I can find what page we're on. Page 60 of your packet. So if you look at that, quite a few things going on with that culvert. The bottom of it is completely rotten away. Water pretty much trickles through there less than 6 inches unless there's a, so you're always getting that flowing running water on the bottom of that. Corrugated metal pipes are not used for this exact reason anymore. I've never spec'd one in my entire life. So engineered 2007. So I immediately saw dollar signs when we went and looked at this. To pull this out and put in an arch culvert of this size would cost $200,000 or $300,000 and last 30 to 50 more years. So we called our friends and our resources inside of the city of Cincinnati. Chris Hammett and Reiner Reesing, both are bridge engineers. Reiner is actually the engineer that's doing the Victory Parkway Bridge up by Twin Lakes. So those guys are excellent at being able to assess these kind of things. They came out within a day and walked this thing. They have golf clubs. They're smacking things and hitting and making sure there's stuff all behind it. In any case, they tell me that other than the bottom, the seams, the consolidation of the material above and around it and everything is in such good shape that they didn't recommend ripping this thing out and put it in a culvert, which was great news for me. What they did recommend, as you see in the picture that shows the example, is putting a fillet of concrete in the bottom of this. So we're going to take out all the loose rock that's underneath the existing culvert, pull all that loose stone out. Any of the metal that's loose, we're going to take out. But if the metal strands around the bottom of the culvert are still in place, we're going to leave those as tensile strength. And then they're going to basically pour a 6-inch bottom in that culvert and put a piece of wire mesh in that for even more tensile strength. What's the longevity of that? Another 30 to 40 years.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. Great.
I'm really curious about this because here we go with a freeze thaw and water's running through there all the time. I can't understand why that hunk of concrete won't crack and there won't be.
It certainly will. So the spring line of a pipe essentially is when half of the pipe is covered. And when the bottom of that, when anything, you could put a tin can in the ground, essentially. A thick tin can and put a lot of pressure on that. You can almost run a car over it because as long as that arch is in shape, everything is fine. When you lose that stability, the tin can collapses. So in this situation, why we don't use corrugated metal is because it allows that undermining anymore. This completely negates the undermining. So you're not going to get any of that water. Water will essentially be running on concrete 95% of the time. And they've shown me that the seams aren't even the problem. So the rest of that culvert is as if it was essentially pretty new. Another unique aspect of this is that there's bedrock on both sides of that. So you're not just getting this sloughing. There's really rock. They had to blast that culvert in. So you're not getting this lateral pressure coming in on the sides. And as our geotechnical friends told us, we've got 24 inches of cover on top, which you have to have a minimum bed. Otherwise, when you put a truck over top of it, you're putting it too close and not spreading the load across that culvert enough. So that is why I called in the experts, those folks that design geotechnical and bridges. They told me that all of that is good. They didn't need any load rating on the bridge, but they said this should be done sooner than later. As a part of this as well, we're not just fixing this. The railroad tie rails are in really bad shape. So we've given them a instructions to redo those completely, put all that back in concrete so that it's nice and sturdy. I could have kicked them over with my foot at the ones that are.
Don't do that.
Yeah, so,
Well, you know, this culvert is a children's playground.
yes, ma'am.
My own children have played in here many times.
Ah.
It's very fun to bring that home.
It's huge. It was awesome.
Now we know.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be engineers if we keep coming in and listening to Joel's reports. I love,
You know, this is,
he had this on the whiteboard. He was showing me the tensile strength and telling me the tin can analogy, and I'm just like, okay. So it's been fun to learn. It's like a little Bill Nye the Science Guy episode.
there you go.
We've learned so much. since
That's
these
right.
reports. So much.
Exactly. Thank you all. I appreciate that. The last thing we're doing with this is we're gonna armor exactly like what Molly said. Why are we not fixing this? What's gonna happen, even on the sides, it can undermine. If you look at the bottom left picture that says number 3, as water flows into that way, it can go around both sides of that culvert on the outside. So we're gonna flowable fill mortar even around that to encase it like it is concrete essentially, and then stick riprap in there. So there's gonna be no more erosion on either side of this thing. So we're doing a little bit more than just armoring the culvert. We're actually armoring that whole spot. So we won't have to deal with this for years and years again and make that access,
Well, and this bridge gets more than just car traffic because it also gets traffic to drop off stuff, rental equipment, trucks to go up to French House. So it's a road that we need to make sure it's taken care of.
And another important facet of timing on this is, as you know, you all approved water main projects for both French and Alt. Those are permitted at this point, and I believe they're starting next week on Alt. In any case, we're going right under this culvert with a directional drill, like 7 or 8 feet under this. So I want that done before these guys come in and do this, such that if they mess up anything, I got a chance to fix it all at one time and don't have to come back. So that's why we're bringing this to you all so quick. Just want to let you know that's why you haven't heard of this much beforehand.
That's a fun morning call from your head of engineering. He says, have you ever seen a culvert like this? And I'm like, uh-oh. But he had it fixed within a day, or an idea to fix it.
So Joel, for the French house restoration, what's the dollar amount that you've got for that?
Culvert, we anticipate, and we're very, very confident that it is going to be right under $100,000.
Okay, so culvert, $100,000, and the French house restoration you said was 2?
Yes, 225 is what.
Okay.
Techs have told me 200 is what they actually expect. If you look, this project was already work awarded at $182,000 a year and a half ago, but they've added some scope, some of the concrete that they're cleaning up. So we anticipate it's going to be in that neighborhood as well.
And I just note there is a typo. On the front page, it says 300,000, utilization of 300,000. On the second page of the memo, it does say approved 325,000.
Yes.
The culvert got a little bit more expensive.
From page 1 to 2.
Correct. We got one of the 2 bids in. So we've
Yes.
gone out to 2 bids, and the first bid came in higher than we estimated. We'll obviously take the lowest bid, but we know that first bid is kind of our starting point at 100,000. So
And the first bid is a super responsible contractor. So I'm confident that he's taking everything into account that we talked through. So we know we have one responsible bid.
So that's off of French that you're proposing for us?
Yes, sir. 325,000 for.
Before we actually approve this, let's go ahead, Joel.
Jason.
Jason. You know, my family is Joe, Joan, Joe, Jim, Jerry, Jan. So that's why my J's, forget it. It's my parents' fault.
So thank you, Mr. President. So we've talked a lot about the great work that Joel's team done along with Craig to put together the tracker. And the tracker kind of starts to organize all of these projects. Historically, the way the park board did it was in December, the park board would approve 20 to 30 projects for the coming year. These were the highest priority projects and the projects that they felt like were the most important. And then life happens and some of the projects get done. Some of the projects are over budget. Some of the projects are under budget. Some of the projects we have changing priorities, and you find out about a culvert and a bridge that's really important and you want to jump on that. So what we're doing here is we've got these historic line items that have been hanging out in the past, and we've been slowly spinning those down as we go. For this one, since it's a bigger one, we're taking the opportunity to go ahead and collapse all these line items down and kind of put them back into the bigger bucket, and rather than being a specific line item. Going forward, what we'll do in the capital budget time is we'll approve money for these kind of smaller projects in a big bucket. And then we'll approve a list of what we think we're going to work on. That list won't be much different than Joel's report, except it'll just be a list of them, but then we'll slowly tick those off. So instead of approving in advance, 40,000 for this, 75,000 for that, 80,000 for that, and then we do get to it or we don't get to it, we find out it's more or less expensive than we thought. We'll instead have the bucket approved. This is for your infrastructure and rehabilitation projects. And then as we come to you each month, we'll say, of the $1 million, let's say, we're going to spend 75. And then next month we'll say, of the $925,000, we're going to spend 115. So then we'll slowly work our way down that so that it'll be much clearer how much money we have and what the priorities are. And we'll still be working off of the list. We just won't, we'll have guesses there, but we won't have pre-approved, this is definitely 75. Because, you know, things change all the time. Priorities change. Contractors are slow to get back to us. A project we thought we were going to do this year might not happen for a year and a half. So we think that's going to clean it up. And year to year, it won't be much different. But what you won't have is these projects that are lagging 5 years, 4 years, because then the budget office starts to look at us and say, why is this hanging out there? And then we've got to reallocate, and Craig's got to do a bunch of behind the scenes work. So we're just trying to streamline that, get all that kind of caught up so that it'll be much more transparent to the citizens that watch. It'll be much easier for you all to make decisions and know how to allocate these funds. It'll be much easier for us to give kind of a clear direction on that. So this is kind of that first step in that. Some of these line items are just kind of bulk, like we're going to spend on this year. We're going to spend on that this year. None of these projects are going away. All of these projects can still be done. We can talk specifically about each individual line item, but instead of having them pre-approved, we're going to have the money available to move forward with.
It also allows us to utilize the oldest structured rehabilitation money first, which makes Craig's life easier when it comes time for sunset and things like that. Yep. So all of these things are essentially just meant to condense a list of 300 line items in a project bucket down to 50 that are much more manageable, digestible, and trackable.
Yep. And so as an example, the $200,000 for Riverfront caulk and grout repair at Smale Park. That's still a project we're working on. We just had a great meeting with the Smale family and the foundation last week to kind of update them on the park that bears their grandfather's name, grandfather and grandmother's name. And one of the things we'd updated them on is that Joel and his team, along with Andy on Jenny's team, are putting together a plan to do a several $100,000 sidewalk kind of maintenance plan. We've talked about that, and when we did our capital budget in December, we talked about $500,000 for Washington Park. These parks are now hitting that 10-year-old phase. And so sometime during this year, we're likely to bring you something very similar to Fleshman, where we're like this piece of concrete, this piece of concrete, this piece of concrete. We're still going to do that project, and we're going to find the money to do that, and we'll bring that to you. But we don't have to pre-approve that. We can kind of collapse that back in and then use the available resources when we do.
Any way to speed it along.
So yeah, it was
any way to speed it.
Exactly. This will be much more, we'll be much more flexible and nimble to be able to adjust to your priorities, the community's priorities, and just the world's priorities as things break.
So on the 600,000 list that we have here, and I like the approach you want to take going forward with working down rather than, is there any questions or concerns on what we have identified here as part of the 600,000?
No, I think you address certain things that aren't getting done.
Correct.
It's funds not needed.
Yep.
where you approved exact dollar amounts for projects. And then 6 months later, like, oh, Molly, I need $33 more. So that gives us 3 months to go through the whole process to get a change order. Very much like the contingencies, not obligating yourself to the dollar on all those projects is going to make us much more quick to get things through.
Great. So let's first, there's a recommendation. Let's approve reallocating this money to a I don't want to say a bucket.
A general, yeah, just back to
general funding availability. Any concerns with doing that? No. All those in favor?
Whatever.
Yes.
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 Excellent.
Thank you, Phyllis. Okay, so now that we've
I
got.
have a rule, never talk past the sale.
Or talk exactly. That's what it's done. So now we've got $600,000 that has been put back into availability line item for maintenance, of which Joel is requesting, staff is requesting that we allocate $325,000 towards French Park approved maintenance items, basically.
Yes.
Any further discussion on French? Do I have a motion to approve moving forward with the 325,000?
So moved.
Second.
Second, yes.
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 Yes. That,
That is a yes.
thank you. Joel, we're through with French.
Awesome.
Thank you. And we're through with the capital budget,
Okay.
which is Smale.
All right. Am I still? Go for it. Okay, this is. Okay, got it. So this is for the filter system at the main street pumps inside of Smale Park. Talking to Andy about this for several months. In fact,
And real quick, because we have lots of beautiful fountains at Smale. These are the fountains that are at the end of Main Street. They're south of Marion Way. They're very close to Great American Ballpark. They're the ones that, at least when I think of kids playing in fountains at Smale Park, this is the like perfect photo on a dusk, kids running around and lighted up fountains. So
thanks, Jason. So very similarly to why we're doing the tank, we're doing this right this time. That's what we're trying to do. So as they were working towards putting this stuff in, they put this Defender system in, proprietary, billions of little parts in the middle of this thing, can't even work on it. As far as I've been told, they said they can't even lift the lid off to properly change the bags on this. So it was a technology, once again, a vendor who may have been involved with the design process, selling something that may have not been the best application. So a year and a half ago, I believe, our predecessors came to you all for a design contract for this via KZF. They have designed fix for this. Essentially what they're going to do is take out that old Defender system and put in a much more manageable multimedia sand filter, essentially is what we call them, but several stages of a different type of filter to do the same thing. The Defender series, the one that they took out, also works on diatomaceous earth, which is, if you don't know anything about that, it's ancient coral that you burn all of the stuff off and they use it as pool filters. So inside of your swimming pool, that is the white stuff you see is called diatomaceous earth. It used to be anyway, because now it's carcinogenic and that's not used anymore. So this system as well is taking a carcinogenic risk out of our park system at the same time for a better technology that's easier to work on. So we are going to attempt to do this project under the third-party agreement with Megan participating for us between the contractors that are specialized in fixing these things. The cost of it is $124,900. And we're going to take that from Riverfront Park Fund 329. So P&D is asking today to help facilitate the purchase of that new filter system for maintenance at a cost of $124,900.
So is this filter system in place because this fountain recycles its own water?
It has to be back to drinking water standards when they recirc that water instead of pump and dump. That's exactly right.
Got it.
That's the purpose of this. That old one is hard to maintain. The seals break. It has once those seals aren't seated correctly, the differential pressure inside the machine is a nightmare to deal with. We'll put it that way. So sand filters are something I've got 15 years experience with in very similar applications and is a much better fit for what we're doing here.
And to be clear, we do test the water on a very regular schedule as prescribed by the health department.
Absolutely.
It's important. The fountains are safe.
Ours.
Yeah. The fountains are currently safe.
They are safe. That's right. Yeah. When this thing does, then it's.
My kids are filthy.
That's a very good point. With a multimedia filter, you don't get these pressure issues.
Yeah.
When this happens and you blow a seal, it's down. And Andy has to shut it down because now you're not cleaning that water every single time it rolls. So this is to make it much more easy.
Great.
To get back up.
And the source of funding for this is 329, as I understand. That's
a $3.8 million
fund that's available. There's plenty of funding available there. Are there any questions about the need to do that?
Done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we've got Commissioner North made a motion and Commissioner Lee seconded. Yes, for me. Yes, yes. Phyllis, are you in agreement with this?
I am, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel.
Appreciate it. I believe other than updates and things that I'm going to get to take a couple of you on tour with today, I don't have anything else action item wise. Do you all have any questions for me on anything else in my report? I'm happy to talk about any of them.
I just have one. You had a Linwood Park exhibits in here, but I didn't see anything about it.
It's just to keep you all aware for right now, because that came back to life this month, Commissioner. It's one of those where Duke has come to us 2 or 3 different ways and 2 or 3 different times about things, and I'm just making sure you all are aware of that. What they're trying to do right now is do some ecological testing for the northern Indiana bat and those kind of things off season right now. That's not even on our property. That's in the right of way. So Crystal is managing that. We're looking at it closely. I've walked it. What is going to affect us is when they come back to put in the new gas line, very much what they're doing right now at California Woods and Ottawa Arm Leader. That's going to tear up significant amount of trees. We are aware of that. So I'm keeping this one in there so that you all are tracking that every single month as these big ones, we'll say big MOU requests come through.
And they're bucking you on replacing the trees. Cost of replacing the trees.
I will defer to the director for an upcoming line item, I believe.
Hang on then. Oh, wait, we're gonna get.
Gonna get to Otto.
Yeah.
All right, so the Duke is the Linwood Park.
Yes, ma'am. Duke is this one as well,
I got it.
but they're asking very similarly. This would have been 6 months ago on the Ottawa Arm Leader project. Hey, we want to do some testing.
Yeah, I thought Duke was
It's not a,
across
Yeah.
the road.
It's both.
yes,
Yeah.
all of, Duke is in all of these.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about the last one is the pipeline easement and right of entries. Those need to be approved for the project they're currently working on. This is the next phase of that. And so Joel's keeping you in the loop early that they will be back to talk about Linwood in the future.
Another high pressure gas main project, yes.
Okay,
And Laboida is the same, or yes, Laboida Woods is the same way. We know that one's going to be significant because they're going to do a whole lot of different tree cutting or try to mandate some of that. So we're making you all aware of those big ticket items that are coming from an MOU standpoint.
I'm sorry to jump ahead, but
Oh, it's all right.
massive list of trees. What does this mean? They would need to take down these trees in order to do their work and then,
Let's get to that line item.
Again,
Since we're talking about
I'm
this.
sorry, I.
no worries.
Yeah,
Really, all right.
Let's all get to the right page here.
it's page 81 is the Duke Energy Pipeline.
So I'll invite Crystal to come up here. So Duke Energy is putting in a new gas pipeline. This has been a conversation for several years now. That pipeline is now ready to go, and they're ready to kind of do this next phase, which will go through the edge of Recreation Commission's portion of California Woods, down Kellogg Avenue. You can see in the map, if we can get to the map. It goes down Kellogg Avenue, it goes across the front of McGrish Preserve, and then it goes along Beachmont Avenue. It goes along Beachmont Avenue.
Yes.
So we found out about this a little bit late in the game, and we're working on fixing those procedures for the future, which is why we're ahead of the game on Linwood. But we found out about this a little late in the game, and I got to compliment Crystal and her team and Joel. As soon as we found out about it, we snapped to it, and our team went out there and they did a complete tree audit of the area that they're going to be removing these trees. There's both the part in Ottawa Arm Leader Park, the part in McGrish Preserve, and then there are right-of-way trees because they're going along a road through some other portions of the community. So there are right-of-way trees that'll be urban forestry park. I think it's like 113,000, 64,000, and then the big one is Ottawa Arm Leader. There is a lot of detail in here, and I will defer to Crystal to talk about the specifics of how they value that. But this is kind of the national standard for how these are valued, and the way our team does it, which includes, devaluing for certain conditions about a tree that might not be in perfect shape, the age of it, the likelihood that it will fail. But yeah, this is going to be trees that will come down, but by capturing this dollar value, we're able to then reinvest in trees and reinvest in creating a good canopy for our community.
So can you paint a picture for us? So what is going to happen is they are going to trench to be able to put in a new pipeline.
Mhm.
In doing that, they are going to be taking out all of these trees.
So to be clear, we evaluated every tree that was within the potential limits of disturbance.
Okay,
So after the project, this is every tree that is within that area.
okay.
After the project is complete, we will come back through and do a reappraisal for whatever is left. And then the total value there will be subtracted from what's remaining.
And from the park's perspective, so like we're touching, where I'm going with this is just how it's going to look to the public and to everybody else. So the one that's down Kellogg Avenue, that's going to be very visible, right? They're going to come through.
We are doing it right
Kellogg
now.
Avenue will be in the right of way. So there are no tree impacts along Kellogg Avenue.
Okay.
There are some right of way trees that'll be impacted near Rensler along
Linwood.
something like that.
Yeah, I think.
So we're meeting out on site next Monday with Duke and their contractors to talk about potentially moving that line a little bit so that we can preserve some of the largest trees that are within the right of way there. There's a wide open field behind it. Because we came into the project so late, due to city process or what have you, we could have had a better influence on where this line was going or how it was being approached had they understood what the regulations were, for us regarding tree removal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But along Beachmont, you're really not going to see much of an impact there. The trees that are along the right of way will be remaining. The pipeline is kind of down in a valley, so that work won't be very visible to the public.
Okay.
It's adjacent to their existing electrical easement, so it's not like they're just cutting in a new complete spot. This is as close to their existing electrical easement as they can get it, correct? And as close to their existing pipeline easement in most cases as they can get. There's already a pipe here.
Gotcha. So the approach that they're taking, just to remind, we've done this before. This is how we've been doing it. We did this on when we parcel near Inwood Park, where Uptown Properties did agree, and this is how we do it. So at this point in time, for this easement or access or whatever, Duke is now in agreement with this plan that we have in place here?
Yes, sir. Everything that's within the document that the board report and the right of entry defines the amount not to exceed as far as compensation for the trees that will be lost.
Gotcha.
And they've already signed the right of entry.
Okay.
She's accounted for both the urban forestry trees within the right of way and the specific trees within our park separately so that they can be tracked separately and funded separately.
Perfect. It's a complicated project. It's going to happen. It is happening.
They have two other sets of easements and two other rights of entry that they're working through with MSD and CRC.
CRC, we just approved this 2 days ago. Yep.
I would just wonder, when it is said and done, is it gonna be another situation like where they had the tunnel thing down at the park? Lytle Park and all that business, that it's gonna take 2 and 4 years to get it redone? See,
No, I don't believe so. They're moving pretty fast on this project.
I mean, but will you be able to then go in and plant the trees right away, or is there gonna be a whole project on getting the,
They'll move in.
ULMs and all that stuff in order, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm having trouble expressing it, but I'm frustrated by when these folks come in and destroy the park. It takes 2 to 4 years to put the park back together, which it just doesn't seem right.
Well, luckily in this case, there's not a whole lot of park infrastructure that's being impacted aside from the entrance into McGrish Nature Preserve. And so all of the standards that we wrote into the right of entry are the same standards that DOTE uses for restoration of the roadway and the curbs throughout that area.
And I envision this more like an MSD project where they go in and they have to take out trees, do their work, and then we can come in almost immediately afterwards and replant.
Yes.
So within the area that they are removing trees, there will likely not be any replanting because their easement is expanding. That's why there's so many trees. A 15-foot gain on their easement over a mile-long corridor. It ended up equating to about 200 trees within that auto arm leader area. So these funds will go into a compensatory fund that can then be used to replant within the surrounding area or to fund any kind of tree maintenance that we need within those surrounding areas as well.
This will look much more like an easement corridor, where like it'll be kind of, they will manage it, but it'll be like mowed. So they have access to the pipeline for the maintenance that they'll need.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unfortunately, it won't turn back into forest because they need to have access like that. Yeah.
And it has to be so offset from the one that they have, so they don't blow out the one that they have while they're putting the new one. That's hence they have to get 15 foot closer to what they have now and expand.
So what we have in front of us is a recommendation that we approve the easement and right of way and to accept the compensation for lost trees. Is there any other discussion on that? Any other concerns?
No alternative, right?
No, it's going to happen. We just have to officially give them the right of way and in return for the compensation that we're getting for the loss of trees.
So there will be 3 permanent easements of on park property. So that'll be the major change as far as park parcels.
Yeah. And again, as Susie was just talking about, it's more, this will be, you see it all the time when it's a pipeline. So sort of like utility lines, sometimes you see through a forest, there's mode underneath it. It's the same type of thing, so.
I'll also say Duke was really surprised by the number. So I think that because of this, because of the way that we value trees, it's my understanding that every effort will be taken to retain the majority of these trees.
Perfect.
It puts as much onus on them as we can to protect as many as we can, knowing that she's going to come right behind them and look at every single scratch on every single one that's messed up.
And it's all calculated by GPS too. They have every one of these dialed in and pinned.
Matt DeBona will be able to push a button and show the tree that they on it down.
Ultimately, the goal of the process is to protect the trees, right? Because you can plant to take down one giant tree. You know, it takes 30, 40 years to get that kind of tree canopy back. And so that's the value of them. But because the value is so high and everybody wants to save money on projects, that will cause them to keep as many trees as possible, which is the ultimate community benefit. So I really got to compliment Crystal's team and how quickly they embraced this. And they really did a great job of being open and transparent, sharing the details, but also being incredibly responsive. You know, Duke isn't afraid to do this project. They've been working on it for a long time. And the team really did a great job to both protect the tree canopy for the community, which is our ultimate goal, but then also to protect the community to get that value for the trees that have to be lost, unfortunately. So it's just a really great job by the team. Really impressive.
Really sets precedents for how we appraise trees for any project.
Yeah.
We've done this in the past, but.
And to the point that it is sort of a deterrent to be what actually has to be done. So that's a great approach to it. So we have before us a recommendation that we approve the easement and right of entry. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Those in
Second.
favor, yes, from me?
Yes.
Yes,
So
yes.
we get approved. Thank you.
Jason and Jim, because we have executive session, can we try to put a hustle on that?
That's what I'm trying to do. So we have two other items, quick items. Grant from the foundation, $16,000. And what's the bottom line on this?
The bottom line,
Yep.
money wise.
No, just the bottom line so we can
The
vote.
bottom line is that we are asking for approximately $16,000 to get 2 event panels to be used for Smale Riverfront Park and Sawyer Point. These are portable panels. They'll have 8 outlets, 2 twist connects, 30 amps, and cam blocks attached to them.
So this is something the foundation has agreed and is paying for this. It's $16,000. And we will be able to use this in other events. It's something that will benefit us down the road. So thank you to the foundation. Do I have a motion to
Yes.
accept
So
and
moved.
second?
Second,
Yes,
Yes.
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 thank you. Thank you to Lindsay.
Let's start timing these.
We are. And what else do we have, Craig?
The next one is the Pipe Park. DNR identified a lot of dead wood that's greater than 2 inches on 48 honey locust trees there.
Yes.
And we would like to go ahead and contract that service out for $15,750. That dead wood could be removed.
Bottom line is businesses around Pyatt Park actually contribute money every year.
That is true.
So this is, it's going to be funded from a fund where basically the neighbors have created this fund for maintenance. And we are just approving outsourcing, bringing in a third-party service to do trimming of the trees. Are there any other questions? I would so move that we approve that recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, yes?
Yes.
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 Thank you, Phyllis. That's approved. Thank you, Craig. Clear.
So director's comments, that's the end of our business, right?
Yes.
Typically, I give some comments and give some highlights. I left my comments on the printer. And so Rocky is looking for them right now, but Rocky, it's actually okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to submit them to the minutes and share them with you guys over email. For those listening online, we will have them in the minutes for everybody to have. There are a couple of announcements, but since I didn't bring them and since we've had a long meeting, I'll go ahead and just submit those to you in an email form.
Perfect. We're going to move from director's comments into our final item, which is an executive session. And before we go into executive session, I want to say what we are doing in executive session today is reviewing performance and salary level for our director. We are going to establish that we will be doing this every year to be able to ensure we are in lockstep with our director and provide performance appraisal back to him as any employee would get from their employer. I will say, before we go into executive session and discuss it, it is from the park board is extremely pleased with the performance of our director, Jason Barron. We are very supportive and he has the full support of this board. So the purpose of our executive session today is to just provide him with that detailed feedback and to discuss how well we are supporting him and how he is performing in support of the Cincinnati Parks, which we believe is excellent at the moment. So with that, I am going to move that we adjourn into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22 parentheses G, to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee. Do I have a second?
Second.
We need a roll call, yes?
Commission President Getz,
Yes.
Vice President North,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini, Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
and Commissioner McCallum.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I do not anticipate further action by this board following the executive session, but you're more than willing to come back. We will move to adjourn once the executive session is over. And we're going to take a second.
Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing before you all go. Y'all are absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the parks have never looked better. And I've been looking at them for a very long time. They look amazing. And the level of work that's going on here, for me, just sitting here listening, it feels overwhelming. So I can only imagine how it feels when you're in the thick of it. But I want you to know, you all are making a huge impact in the city and in these parks. Enormous. It is just amazing how much is getting done. It's a lot. So thank you. Thank you.
I would like to add to Molly's comments. I'm in the parks all the time. I see people in there working really, really hard. I am new to this process and I'm telling you, it's overwhelming listening to all of these projects, the scope of them, and you guys are coming out. You are on top of everything and just doing a great job. And I am so impressed.
Thank you for the lessons too, because I'm learning so much.
So much. So much.
I'm in the real world, like, I know what that is.
So much. So knowledgeable. Thank you so
Thank
much.